Trailblazers, it's Mrs. Anderson with a new edition of Anderson Counselor Chronicles. We continue this week with our review of the Student Parent Handbook. As I said in last week's episode, we will cover one brief topic from each section. And remember, there are 3 sections in the Student Parent Handbook. One of the things that Vancouver Public Schools wants for each student is that each student will be a responsible citizen. You can see that we talk about responsibilities and how to be responsible at school almost every day, because that's the mission of Vancouver Public Schools. And so whenever you hear your teacher or a staff member talk about being responsible, know that we're not just saying it just because we feel like it, but we're saying it because we feel very deeply about the importance of being responsible, and it is part of the mission of Vancouver Public Schools to teach students responsibility and to show them what responsibility looks like, as well as how important it is to be responsible. All right, on to Section 2. Section 2 talks about student responsibilities. One of the ways that students can be responsible is when they ride the bus. Now, we know that you're not at school, and so you might think that rules no longer apply because you're not at school when you're on the bus. You're on your way to school, or you're on your way home, or you're at the bus stop and that's not at school. We still want you to show responsible behavior because we can see how irresponsible behavior can hurt you and hurt others, and then it comes to school and it hurts more people at school. We ask that you follow the bus rules. Let me ask you this. If every single person on the bus decided to get up and do whatever they wanted, do you think that would be a safe place? Probably not. Let's show our bus drivers how responsible we can be. Let's show Vancouver Public Schools that we care to be responsible citizens. You know, I picked an important section in Section 3. I picked the part about bus rules. I figured that made sense since I just went over behavior on the bus, right? So in Section 3, we look at specific bus rules and also specific consequences for when those rules are broken. So I'm just gonna lay it out for you real fast, all right? Here we go. One of the rules on the bus is to talk in a way that doesn't distract the driver. Can you believe that's a rule? I'm thinking that's because the driver of the bus is driving a really big vehicle with tons of students inside that vehicle. And it's really, really important that the bus drivers stay focused because, man, I don't even want to think about what could happen if the bus driver lost his or her focus. Another rule is to sit down in your seat and to face forward. Right? So you're not standing up while the bus is moving. You're not turning around in your seat while the bus is moving and talking to your neighbor behind you. You are sitting down, face forward, maybe talking to the person sitting right by you, because we want the bus to be safe. Ooh, okay. The third rule on the bus is to not use bad words, cuss words, profanity. That's a rule, you guys. It's not a request, it's a rule. So not following that rule, there are consequences. The 4th rule is to respect the property of others when you're on the bus. So if something doesn't belong to you, should you take it? No. Keep your hands to yourself. Respect the property of others by leaving their things alone. So the 5th rule is pretty straightforward. It basically says, follow the directions of the person in charge. So, when you're on the bus, the person in charge is the bus driver. Pretty simple. You are to follow the bus driver's directions. And then the 6th rule is to keep your hands and feet to yourself and to keep objects to yourself. So you're not hitting people, you're not kicking people, you're not throwing things at people, including paper. That is an object. You are keeping your hands and feet and objects to yourself because, again, safety is important. A couple of last minute things that you need to know. You need to know what could happen if you break the rules. The first thing is that you will get a warning. If you break the rule again, then you might not be able to ride the bus for a whole week. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to think about what your parents or guardians are going to feel when they find out that they have to figure out another way for you to get to school. But yeah, if you break the rule a second time, you're not going to get to ride the bus for a whole week, at least. It could be more than a week. Okay, so if you broke the rule a third time, and this is any rule, it doesn't have to be the same rule. It could be any type of rule on the bus. A third time means you can't ride the bus for a whole month. And if you broke another rule a fourth time, you won't get to ride the bus for the rest of the year. Now, of course, during this process, we want to hear from you too, why you're doing what you're doing or what you're thinking about when you're doing these things, because you have a voice and we want to hear your voice. We want to understand where you're coming from and work with you. And we also want you to understand that the rules are there for an important reason and they can't be broken. If they are, there are consequences. All right? Believe it or not, you guys, there are so many more things that have to do with riding the bus that it would take me like half an hour to go over. But here's the thing, you all have a copy of the Student Parent Handbook. You can look at it in more detail if you're confused about your responsibility on the bus. All right, but the rules that I just shared with you, those are pretty important ones. Those are actually really important ones. And if you can follow them, I know that the bus will be a safer place for you and for everyone. Thank you, Trailblazers. Make this week awesome, starting with today.